Okay, today we'll talk about the some of the chemical technologies which are developed by the Sumerians. Now, as I may mention that they were the first civilization in the world. So in Mesopotamia, especially in city of Uruk. Mesopotamia, as you know, is between Dicle and Fırat, or Tigris and the other one. In the south, part of there are various cities, Uruk. Sometimes you can hear these words, but it's difficult to understand. But because there were many city kingdoms in Mesopotamia, so Uruk was the most crowded one. That's where the Sumerian civilization started in the lower part or southern part of Mesopotamia. And there's another city, and Uruk. If you know the prophet Ibrahim, Peygamber, he's supposed to be born there. So he's Mesopotamian, but he lived in Urfa. It was named by Harran. So you hear about Ur and Uruk in various sources when you read certain things about the past histories. So there are many things you can meet in the literature related to Ur and Uruk. They were very famous cities, and it was the biggest, perhaps, city or the country in the world. It was too crowded. It was difficult to handle because when the first administration starts, they start in small villages. Before that, it starts with the families. You have a big family, maybe 10 children, mother and father, grandmothers, and then you have some relatives, you get together, you create a community or maybe a tribe, ashiret or something. Somebody has to lead the ashiret. But when it gets more and more crowded, people were not experienced how to handle so many 10,000 people, 20,000 people, because they know how to handle the family, how to handle the tribe or ashiret, but they had to find a way to coordinate the city, the community. So Sumerians were very crowded people, and then they established the first civilization because they learned how to handle all those people and how to make advantage of their abilities, their talents. So they coordinated them, and then they established the first civilization in the world. Now, before we talk about the chemical technologies, we have to understand that it's not by accident that they discovered chemical technologies or chemical apparatuses, because they invented many, many other things along with the chemical technologies. So that's how they invented chemical technologies. It's like, I mean, you wouldn't expect Turkey to make the first atomic bomb in the past, right? During Second World War. I mean, we were so poor and we had no technology, nothing. So it was not surprising that Americans made the first atomic bomb, because it was the newest and extraordinary discovery to make the atomic bomb. Of course, Russians, they also had some spies and they learned some of the secret techniques. Later on, they also made their atomic bomb, but the first Americans. But again, the Americans, if the world did not have Hitler or Mussolini or Nazism, America probably wouldn't be able to make the atomic bomb. Perhaps the Germans would make the atomic bomb, because the scientists for many years in history were very famous in Germany, in England, in Italy, and some in France. They were the most developed countries in the world. So they had all tradition of science and technology. So the first fission, that means breaking up an atom, was discovered by a chemist, by a German chemist. And Ya benim bilgisayarda bir şey oluyor. Kusura bakmayın arkadaşlar. Ne olduğunu anlamıyorum ya. Kontrolümden çıkıyor, bir şeyler yapıyor. Hayır. Ben yanlış şeylere mi dokunuyorum? Affedersiniz ya. Allah Allah. Ne oluyor buna? The name of the chemist was Otto Hahn. Actually, have you heard the name of Otto Hahn at all? Otto Hahn? Hiç duymadınız mı? O zaman bir bakarsınız. Okay, so Enrico Fermi, have you heard the name Enrico Fermi? Fermi duymadınız mı? Enrico Fermi. Hiç, neciydi, fizikçi mi, kimyacı mı, hangi ülkeye ne iş başardı? Enrico Fermi was one of the most famous physicists in the world in 1930s. He won Nobel Prize in 1939. And he was the first person who worked on radioactivity, but before him there was someone else, but he discovered certain things. Actually, he broke the atom, but he didn't understand that he broke the atom. Okay? When he bombarded uranium with neutrons, he broke the uranium atoms, but he didn't understand what he did. So Otto Hahn was a chemist, and he was the one who discovered that uranium atom is broken into pieces. So that shows the strength of accumulation of knowledge in Germany. So they had bright chemists, bright physicists, but Italy was perhaps a bit at a lower level, and also Fermi didn't know much about chemistry. So what I'm trying to say is that if you do not have many scientists in different fields, it's difficult for you to discover something new. So we cannot discover something new in Turkey because we do not have enough accumulation of knowledge. Like the Americans or Germans or Russians or China today. China was not like this, but now they are very well-developed country as far as science and technology is concerned because they have people in space. So you need a large amount of people who is involved in science and technology. Then you can make new invention, new discoveries. That was the chance of the Sumerians, that they had enough knowledge because they made many inventions. Then they were able to discover the secrets of chemistry. So when they made these discoveries, of course, they helped the other nations, especially in Mesopotamia and neighboring countries like Assyria or Iran and many other countries. Now, the basic things that they discovered in chemistry is distillation apparatus and distillation techniques, extraction apparatus, extraction techniques, sublimation technology and sublimation apparatus, few other moves. So before I go into the details of these technologies and apparatuses, maybe we should recall some of the important inventions that the Sumerians made in the past. If you recall from the last course, first they invented the tokens, clay tokens. With a cross, it was, if you recall, it was one sheep. And then after the tokens, they invented the numbers like this. So this is one of the first things that they discovered. And then numbers helped them to develop the alphabet or writing, first time in the world. They were the first civilization to invent numbers and first civilization to invent alphabet, writing. Now, I have a small video, not small, but I will just skip some parts. Now, you have seen clay tablets. And when you look at the writings, they look like something like this. In Turkish, they call çivi yazısı, but it has nothing to do with nail. Just because the letters or signs look like a nail, that's why they called it çivi yazısı. You may see something like this. You may see something like that, or you may see something like this, a long one, and you may see something like this, These are the basic things that how they wrote. So it looks very strange and it's impossible to understand. But if you know the simple techniques, you can understand. So I'll see if we can hear the sound in this video. The man tells you how you can write on a clay tablet with a stylus. Okay, let's, if we are lucky, oops, reklamsız olmuyor.
What the hell, man?
Okay, let me.
We're going to be making clay
Ses
tablets
geliyor
just
mu?
like Abraham used to make. And so to do this exercise, we first of all need to
Buraları
use a
geçiyorum.
stylus.
Bak,
And,
stylus,
and if you haven't yet,
when he says stylus, it is a pencil made out of kamış. Okay? Kamış neydi? Yok, straw mu diyorduk kamış? Her neyse. So it's made with neydi kamış hakikaten? Real miydi ya? Ha? Hayır. Kamış bildiğimiz doğal kamış. Ne? Ha, reed mi diyorduk? Reed galiba. Neyse. So he made this stylus with this piece of reed. So when you look at the stylus, it looks like this. Okay. So you use these corners to make impression. Okay. Let's see how the man does it.
facing to your left. The glossy side is going to be facing away from you towards the camera here.
He says that the glossy side, since you have the reed, one side is shiny, the other two faces are not shiny. So this part is shiny. Maybe I should do this way. Since it's from the reed, you just cut a piece from the reed, okay? So it looks like a triangle, but this is slightly round.
All right, and the fiber side is going to be facing you. So blade to the right, glossy side out.
Parlak kısım dışarıda.
Your right hand. I know there's a lot of left-handed people out there. I'm left-handed myself, but the thing is, you can't write in cuneiform and left-handed. And
so we understand that you should hold it on your right hand.
You can use any color, it really doesn't make any
So you can use, this is just synthetic clay.
Is use some paper towel. Really bad.
So he's showing you how to prepare the clay. He's not using real mud, but he's using a children's toy clay. So Sumerians actually did exactly the same way. That's you pick up the mud, you put it in your hand, and you just shape it as big as your palm.
Rectangular in shape. And they weren't perfectly flat. They weren't flat like this table is flat. They were curved around the way you did before. And just keep doing that until you get the shape that you want. And we are ready to start writing on it.
So the Sumerians made lines on the clay tablet. You'll see how he makes the lines.
All right, so once you're started ready to start writing on it, then there's one thing that you can do. If you want to have it blank like this and you just want to write the letters on there, that's just fine. If you want to create lines that you want to keep inside of, you can take the blade of your stylus and just use it to create those lines. Just kinda, I wouldn't get them too deep. Make sure, but that will give you a nice straight edge that you can write your characters on. Now this is something that the ancients commonly did, not always, but commonly. And it helped them keep their characters straight and their writing straight. Okay, so the next thing you need to do is learn how to write. So first thing, again, how to hold the stylus. We saw this before. Remember the blade goes to your right and the glossy side is out. And you're going to write with just this tip right here. Now, there are 3 types of wedges that you can make.
So 3 types of wedges.
The first one, you're going to make just a triangle, and it looks like this. Just like that.
Okay.
And that's all that it is. Just a nice little triangle. To do that, you just take this edge here, and the writing edge, and you're just going to press it down into the clay. And that's it. You just make a little tick. Just like that. And there you have your wedge. Simple, isn't it? Alright, the second one is going to be the same thing. You're going to make a triangle with a tail on the end. So to do that, you're going to do the same thing. It's going to look like this, actually, is what it's going to look like. Alright, see how it's a triangle with a tail on the end. It's much longer. So to do that, you're just going to take your stylus. You're going to just take your stylus, just the tip there. And just like with a triangle, you're going to push it in. Only this time, you're going to lower the back like that. Okay, so you push it in and lower. And that's all you do. So you have your tail. Now the final one is called a hook. And what it looks like is this right here.
This is the hook.
That last one right there. Alright, so to make the hook, instead of using the tip, you're going to use the glossy side. And you're going to hold your stylus, instead of holding it like this, horizontal, you're going to diagonally hold it, just like this. And you're just going to push the glossy side in at an angle so it makes that little thing. And that's it. And those are the three types of wedges that you're going to make. And with those three types of wedges, you can make just about any kind of character that you want within cuneiform. That's it. So you have your triangle, you have your tail, and you have your hook. And that's all there is to it. Alright, so the last thing that you can do is writing, and this is going to be the actual activity. Once you teach the kids how to make the wedges and different wedge types, then you just start writing. Alright, and what you do is you give them the sheet that's on my website that has the Ugaritic alphabet, or you can also use a sheet that has different Akkadian characters. Alright, but in any case, you're going to be using this with cuneiform. And what I usually have them do is write their name or some kind of secret message in cuneiform. Now the problem with the Ugaritic alphabet is that there are no vowels. If you look at that sheet, there are no vowels, and
So there are no vowels. Sesli harf yok. So in some alphabets, there are no vowels. So Hittites, Sumerians, Assyrians, they didn't have any vowels. So you have to estimate what it means by using the other letters. Benzetiyorsunuz yani. A mı olsun, E mi artık size kalıyor.
In fact, Hebrew is based on Ugaritic alphabet, or vice versa. We're not really sure which one. So what you can do is, if you have any vowels, the sheet that I gave you, I added in a few vowels, A, E, and I think. And
You can, I forgot to bring it, but you can find on internet that the alphabet of the Sumerians, the words, usually the letters resemble some words. So you put them together, you can write your name. So he will write his name now.
I don't remember exactly how many, but if there is a vowel in there and it's not on the sheet, then just tell them to skip that vowel, or they can make a vowel up or something like that. The characters that I have that have vowels are not actually vowels. They are simply like glottal stops and things like that, which is something we don't have in English. So I substituted a vowel with them, so they can put any vowel they want to pretty much in them and still be just fine. So my name is Steve, and I'm going to write my name.
His name's Steve.
So first character we have is S, which is that right there. S.
Maalesef pek gözükmüyor ama.
And the next one is T, which is just a simple horizontal wedge with a tail. And then finally V. I'm going to use.
So here, STV. So you can read it, Steve.
And then finally N.
Steven, sorry, Steven. STVN. Steven. So 4 letters.
Now the great thing is if you make a mistake like I just did with the N, then all you need to do is take just the edge of your finger there.
Tamam, bunu kapatalım. Okay. Now, so they discovered numbers, they discovered alphabet, and then they invented weaving textiles. Normally, of course, just like the women in villages today, women used to do it by hand. But when you had weaving system, you can make mass production of textiles. So they were the first civilization to make mass production of textiles, so they could export it. Textile was one of the most valuable export material in Mesopotamia. Now, the other one, fourth, is turning wheel or potter's wheel. Does anyone know how to make ceramic? Or did I ask you, did you go to the ceramic? Oh, I see, the ceramic laboratory is closed. Sorry. So you sometimes watch in the movies how they make the ceramic pots. You have a rotating wheel, you rotate it. Sometimes it's a machine that rotates the wheel. You have the clay on top of it. You put your hand, when it rotates, you just open up a hole inside, and then you can shape it as it rotates. So that's called turning wheel or potter's wheel. So they were the first civilization that invented a potter's wheel. And we can see that there is a statue from the Egypt, but it's very similar to the turning wheel or potter's wheel that they invented. So they were the discoverer of wheel for the carts. Okay, only the first civilization to discover the wheel, and after they discovered the potter's wheel or turning wheel, then they used it for making carts. Okay, so what they did was for the potter's wheel, they made a flat circle, and of course they dried it. Maybe sometimes they baked. And then it was some conical in the bottom. So they opened a small conical ditch on the ground. They put it there, so it could easily rotate on the ground. So they sat, and then by using their feet, they rotated, and then with their hands, or the two people like you saw in the photograph, previous slide, somebody rotated the wheel, and then the other potter made the container. So then, as I said, they invented the wheel for carts. So there are many documents showing that they used the wheel for the first time in the world. So we see here a container with 4 wheels, and an animal had it. Probably it may be a toy because it's a small statue. So this is one of the earliest documents which shows us that they used wheel for carts. And this is also another one around 2500 that the soldiers had used 2-horse carriages when they went to the war. Usually there were 2 soldiers in a chariot. One was holding the weapon, and the other one's directing the horses. Usually they had 2 horses. So this is from a museum. It is iron wheel with the bronze hub in the center. That's of course much later. This is much modern wheel, much modern. They also invented plow for the farmers. This is, of course, imitation of the plow, but that helped them to produce much more amount of grains for food, wheat or barley, whatever, because before that you were just digging the ground with a stick by hand. But when you use the plow, you have animals to pull the plow. So in one day, you can do the work of maybe 100 people in one day. So they developed the agricultural technology, mass production of food. Now, normally, people produce wheat or barley or other grains just enough for their home, for their family. But when you grow a lot more, so you become rich because you can sell it and then you can export it. Even today, you see, people export grains from Ukraine and Russia. Otherwise, many people would be hungry within the few months later in winter. So this shows you that the production of grains is a strategic material. It changed the direction of the war between Russia and Ukraine, because if they didn't let the grains to be exported, people would die of hunger. So it's a strategic material. Textiles is not maybe a strategic, but grain is a strategic material. Therefore, we all learned from the Sumerians to produce more grains in our farms. So they helped the other civilization to develop, you see. When I said they helped the other civilization to develop, they learned from them how to grow large amount of wheat or barley or other grains. So this is a small bronze statue from around 2000. You can see the man and the animal plowing his farm. So there is no other statue anywhere in the world found earlier than that. So we know that they were the first civilization. It was the gift of Sumerians to the entire world. So, of course, since they lived around the biggest rivers in the world, they had to invent the boats to travel on the river. Because if you travel on the river, you can transport your export materials more easily. Otherwise, you should put it on animals or on the back of people. So transportation on boats always helps civilizations to get rich and richer. Same later on, if I have time, I can maybe talk about the Egyptians. They also were developed because of the exporting of their goods in Mediterranean Sea. So they made many discoveries, they discovered many new lands, and they learned lots of things during their visits on Mediterranean with the boats. So normal boats, and then of course the sailboats helped the civilizations to develop further, to export their goods and also import the things that you didn't have in your country. So then how you get rich? You export and import, export and import. So of course, the value of your export, if it is much larger than the import, you get rich and rich. So boats were very important transportation way of exporting your goods. So this is again, they always made small models of their things. So it's a small model, perhaps were made as a toy for a kid. They used clay and bitumen, asphalt, zift. So, by the way, petroleum was always around. And zift, of course, they didn't dig the ground to reach to the petroleum. They didn't care about petroleum because until we discovered that petroleum could be used as a fuel for cars. Of course, they didn't have cars. For producing energy, let's say, people hated petroleum. Even in America, when they were digging their farms and when they found petroleum, they said, we were very unlucky. I shouldn't buy this farm. I cannot grow anything here. They just left the place. All over the world, they hated it. But bitumen, it's not like a liquid like petroleum. It's a thick liquid. Petroleum is a thick liquid, but bitumen is hard and you can shape it up. So they used it for many purposes. So when they made boats, of course you make the boats with small pieces of wool. If this is your boat, let's say, you use, of course, lots of wood, so the water can leak. So they use bitumen to insulate. Kalafatlama diye bir kelime hatırlıyor musun? Kalafatlamak, kalafatlamak gemileri, yani kayıkları ahşap parçaların arasına küçük böyle kıtık derler ya da üstü ipi gibi kıtık böyle pamuklu bir şeyle karıştırıp ziftle araya sokup orayı su sızdırmaz hale getirmek. This is an old technique probably from Sumerians and Egyptians. Kalafatlama. So of course soon after they realized that the boat goes faster if you have an open textile or whatever. So they invented the sailboat. This is a small statue, or sorry, carving around 1300 BC. So this is another invention of Sumerians, the sailboat. So we can see that they made toys perhaps for their children, or maybe in graves, we don't know exactly, but small models of sailboats of Sumerians. And they were found in Iraq in a grave called grave number 51 in 1947. The archaeologists discovered these two small models of sailboats. So from some drawings, archaeologists draw the or sketched the picture of an ancient sailboat used by Sumerians and Egyptians also. In those days, they had these kind of big sailboats. Now, another important invention of Sumerian is to rule the countries by laws. Without law, you cannot rule thousands or hundreds of thousands or now millions of people. You have to have some laws. So if someone commits a crime, you have to punish them. You have to put them in jail. But if you don't have any laws, you don't know what to do. So you are a king, but you don't know what to do if someone commits a crime. So they were the first civilization to write down the laws, and we call it Urnummus code or Urnummus laws. So when we say code, it is the rules of a combination of rules. So there are very certain specific rules. So this copy is in Istanbul Archaeological Museum. And usually you hear that the first law was made by another Babylonian king. Does anyone remember Babylonian king who wrote the first laws in the world? Neydi adı? Babylonian? Huh? Hammurabi. Okay. But we are talking about Urnammu 2100 BC. Hammurabi came to the picture much later. Biriniz bakar mısınız Hammurabi ne zaman yaşamış? Around 1300 BC in Babylonia. Hammurabi'ye girsen hemen çıkar Wikipedia'da. Kaç? 1300?
Milattan önce 1750.
Ha, 1700 müymüş? Ben o zaman yanlış hatırlıyorum. 1750 mi dedin? Okay. So,
1750 ölüm hocam.
yani 1700'ler dersek arada bir demek ki gene bir 400-500 yılı var. Neyse. So, but all over the world, when you say who wrote the first law, everybody says just like this, Hammurabi. Why? Can you say why? I mean, do you have any idea, any suggestion? Why people think that everywhere in the world, Hammurabi was the first ruler who wrote down the laws? Şeye de bakabilir misin? Hammurabi yasaları olan resmi de imajı da getir. I will explain to you why everyone thinks that Hammurabi was the first person who wrote the laws. Gözükmüyor ama anlat istersen nasıl bir şey olduğunu. Neye benziyor? Bu heykel değil mi? Bir taş heykel mi? Olmaz. Bir stel diyoruz yani bir dikili taş. At the top there is carving of Hammurabi and the god. Okay, so let me just draw it over here. It's something like, we call them stels, see? A big rock. Here, there is the drawing. This is supposed to be the god, and very small. This is Hammurabi. This is God. And God gives him the law. So here are the laws. You'll find it in. Okay, so now this is why everybody thinks that Hammurabi wrote the first law, because this is stone. But Hammurabi on clay tablet, and they were not discovered for many years. But stele was always there. When Persians came to free the Jewish people, and they saw this stele in the middle of the city, they didn't know what it was because they didn't understand their language. They just took it and took it away to their country. It was in Persia. So then it stood there for many years. People didn't know what it was, but after a while, when they decoded the cuneiform, çivi yazısı, they understood that they were laws. Then all the laws in the world were based on Hammurabi laws. Roma kanunları and many European laws were based on the Hammurabi laws. And everybody said that first man to write the laws was Hammurabi, but it's not true. He was a thief. He stole the laws of Urnammu, and then he added some laws, and then he claimed that I spoke to the God. God likes me. And he gave me all these laws. You have to obey them. If you don't obey the laws, you are not obeying the laws of God. You are again, I'll kill you if you don't follow these laws, because these are the laws of God. That's how he ran his country. He was not only a thief, but he was a very crucial man. First, he was the king of a small country, small city, Babylonia. But he was ambitious. He wanted to grow his country and to become a kind of an emperor. Usually, this technique was used many times by other kings in the world. He found a friend, king, and he planned to conquer one of the city kingdoms in the north of Mesopotamia. He knew that they were rich but weak people. They didn't have a small army. But his army was not sufficient to fight with them. So he visited his friend in the other... Buyurun. Tabii. Merak etmeyin, ben de geç geldim. So he told his friend king, he said, do you know that this country, the king, is a terrible man. I heard that from my spies, he will attack you and he will conquer your country. The king said, I've never heard it. He was surprised, but convinced him to get together and fight and conquer that country. So they attacked that innocent country and they conquered it. Next time, he found another small kingdom, and he convinced him that his first friend was going to attack him. And then they together attacked his first friend, and so on. Then he made a big empire, Babylonian Empire. Okay, so this happened many times in history in the past, in Europe, everywhere. The kings perhaps learn, or maybe, you know, we are not very innocent people when we are born because we have many sins. So probably it's in us. If you cannot control yourself, maybe we all can do something like this. So the kings, when they are ambitious, so I'm sure that they didn't learn from Hammurabi, but naturally, they went to this way. So in allies, you see, even the Second World War, First World War, people allied against Ottoman Empire because we were Muslims. See, we didn't do anything to them. We were just, you know, okay, it's okay. We were, you know, enlarging our empire. Maybe we went too far. Maybe we shouldn't go to the depth of Europe. But anyway, so they got together and then they all attacked to destroy and extinct Ottomans. Because they were Christians, we were Muslims, so they easily got together. But this technique was used all the time, even in Second World War. See, Hitler convinced Italy, Mussolini, and he attacked everywhere. He even attacked Russia, everywhere. So you cannot stop the ambition of the kings, starting from Mesopotamia, always. Even today, we know the politics, the countries who are now trying to control Turkey in a different way. Okay, well, anyway, let's not talk about politics too much. Okay, now, okay, so this is the code of Hammurabi. Sorry, the code of, maybe I should put it, I forgot it. This is the code of Urnammu. So most of the laws were stolen from Urnammu, and there were a few other clay tablets. So he put together his laws from his mind and all made it a new set of laws. Now, then the Romans used similar kind of laws. Some of the laws were terrible. Now, if a woman is raped in the city, she would be killed because they said if maybe she didn't scream enough, loud enough, and she was put in a basket or something, and then her hands are tied. They just throw it into the river. If she dies, she was guilty. If she doesn't die, she was innocent. And if somebody is accused of, let's say, stealing something, they have a big container with hot oil. They put your arm into the oil. If you pull it out, you are guilty. If you stay for a certain amount of time, you are not guilty. So these were tortured life of Europe. So I always believe that if we did not see the Hammurabi laws, Hittite laws are much milder, much modern. So these are terrible laws which control all countries in Europe and everywhere, because the kings liked actually to punish people hardly, kill them, cut their arms, cut their legs, cut their heads, put them in jail, keep them, in the jail for many years without giving them food and let them die. Things like that, torturing. Kings like torturing their enemies. But Hittite laws are not like this. I don't want to talk about Hittite law today, but they are the best laws as far as I know. I'll give you one example. Now, usually in history, the kings, when they see that some generals or some congressmen or some noblemen get together and plan to take him out of the palace and throw him out of his throne and put someone else as a king. It's a coup. Usually the king kill everybody. But Hittite says the sister of king, Hittite king, and she wanted to take down the king and make her son the king of Hittite. So she gathered some generals, some noble people, and then they were about to make an attack to the king. He heard about it, and then he made a declaration. He said, the generals and the noble people, my army, they wanted to, take me down with a coup, military coup, with my sister. I did not want to kill the generals and the leaders of the coup. I just stripped them of their duties. I retired them, and then I sent them to the farm to work in my farms. And I did not grab all their jewelry, all their treasure. Why should I do that, he says? Because his family, the general's son or wife, didn't do anything to me. They are innocent. I didn't do anything. I didn't kick them out of, usually you kill the court arranging people, court leaders, and then you send their families to exile to another country, okay? And then you take all their belongings, all their money, gold, everything. The family is innocent, see? This is unbelievable. Hittite king does this. And now look at the world. Okay? So Hammurabi laws were terrible. But Hittite laws, my theory is that if Hittite laws were discovered earlier, then the world would be much different than the world today. But unfortunately, the existence of Hittites was discovered very, very late. Very late, in late 800s or beginning of 90s. So it was too late. Everything was based on these terrible laws. Okay, so Hittites, of course, Ur-Nammu laws were not perfect. They also were some hard laws, but what I try to say is that usually the kings are harsh on people when they want to punish them. So if you look at the, didn't I write down the laws of Ur-Nammu? Oh, okay, I have a slide. Okay, now I forgot to put that down. Of course, they were the first civilization to found or to establish the schools in the world. There were no schools in the world because they didn't know how to read and write. There was no writing. Why would you need a school? So Sumerians, when they invented alphabet and numbers, they established the first schools, Sumerian scribal school, scribes. Now, if you invent so many things, it's natural that you would be the first civilization to invent chemistry and chemical technologies. It's very normal. Now, let's get back to Ur-Nammu. This is a cylinder seal. Do you know what cylinder seal is? Duydunuz mu, gördünüz mü? Silindir mühür. Now, of course, the kings and the people in the government authorities, also during commerce, you have the clay tablets, but you have to prove that it's not fake, right? Today, we say the IOB 500 lira, write it, but if you don't sign it, it doesn't mean anything. You cannot go to the court. So they decided that they should have a sign, signature. So Sumerians, when they have some documents between the two merchants, or anything to do with the government, they put seal on it to make sure that I approve that this is mine. This document is mine. I accept everything in there. So they had to put a sign. Now, of course, they did not write it by stylus because everybody can do it. So you had to have something special to prove that it is you. So they invented the cylinder seal. So here, it's a small cylinder, just like my finger, okay? It's a cylinder. You put small marks on it, you carve. Oyma yapıyorsunuz, adınızı yazıyorsunuz. Bir de buraya 2 tane tel takıyorsunuz. Kil tabletin üzerinde bir kere yürüdüğünüz zaman imza çıkıyor. So this is called cylinder seal. So what we see here is a cylinder seal which depicts King Urnammu on the chair. So if the god is not on the picture, the king always sits on the chair, crown or taht. Everybody stands up, even today. So you roll the stick. So this is the impression of the cylinder seal on the right-hand side. Here you have the cylinder seal here. You roll it, and then the picture comes out. Then you dry it, bake it, your signature is there. Because there is only one. I mean, if you don't imitate, but usually it's difficult to imitate it 100%. So you can see the real picture or better picture of the cylinder seal. You can see the carvings on it. Then you roll it, the picture is there. Of course, you have a handle here. The kings, princes, queens, famous people, generals, they all had cylinder seals. Also merchants. Of course, when you have merchants buy and sell, they always had to put their signature on the documents. Now, if you look at the laws, as I said, Hammurabi laws were terrible, but of course, laws of Urnammu is not much softer. So if you look at it, it says a man must be killed if he commits murder. That's okay. I mean, until about 10, 15 years ago, we did the same, right? In Turkey, in all countries. A man will be killed if he commits a robbery. So if you rob a person, they kill you. We don't kill, but maybe in the past, I don't know about Ottoman Empire, maybe some of them were killed. But today, it's you just put them in jail. A man must be imprisoned and asked to pay 15 shekels of silver if he commits a kidnapping. So if you kidnap somebody for money, shekel is the shekel has two meanings. One is the unit of weight. The other one is it's a unit of money. So it's certain amount of silver plates is called 1 shekel. It's about 28 grams of silver. In those days, I will talk about it. Silver was used as money. So when you say shekel, both meaning money, unit, and also the mass. 60 shekel is 1 mina. We'll talk about it later on. So when you hear mina and shekel, it's usually weight. But shekel has two meanings. Okay, so if a slave marries a slave, and if that slave is set free, he does not leave the house. So you have a slave, and he marries. He doesn't leave your house. He lives in your house. I am a rich man. I have a slave. I let him marry. His wife comes to my house, and she becomes my slave also. So the king likes people, rich people. If a slave marries a native, he should hand over his first son to his owner. Now, I am the owner of the slave, and he marries a normal person, not slave. You let him marry, and he goes out. But then, the first son must come back to my house because I am the owner of the father, so I will not lose any slave. The number of slaves are the same. So that protects the rich people. There are many others, but I just put down a few of them. Now, another important discovery or invention is the map. Babylonians, they are all same people, just different times and different places. Hammurabi Babylonians are down there. So they made the map of the world. Now, if I ask you, if you are an ignorant person, if I ask you, where is the center of the world? You say, Ankara, here, METU. Because when you look around, you are in the center. Everything is around you, right? So they said, okay, Babylonia is the center of the world. So they took Babylonia as the center of the world. They knew that there are rivers, but there is sea. They know that there is sea, so they just draw the picture of the sea. So center is Babylonia, and there are seas around. So some of the preliminary maps always were similar. So many people suppose that their city, their country was in the center of the world. But this was, of course, it was knowledgeable because they wrote some information which could be very helpful to the people. But what I'm trying to say is that they assume that their city is the center of the world. Now here we see a lyre belonging to queen. I forgot the name of the queen. Around 2600 between 2400. The date is not very accurate. BC. And this is a lyre which was found in a grave of the queen. I forgot the name of the queen, as I said. But everything was there, beautiful, silver and gold, etc., lapis lazuli, whatever. But the wood was, of course, decomposed, so they just reconstructed the wood. This color is not too beautiful here. There are some other beautiful photographs of this lyre. Now, let's get back to chemists now. When we excavate certain places, usually the graves and some houses or palaces especially, the archaeologist recovers certain materials. Originally, usually they don't understand what it is because all archaeologists are not familiar with some of the technical materials. But these are excavated in Mesopotamia. They were pestles, mortar and pestle, right? So these were used by Sumerians. And these mortars date back to 3500 BC. Again, the Sumerian chemists used them to powderize some minerals and some rocks for their chemical reactions. They used kilns or ovens carved in big rocks. They burned wood, and then they fired their clay tablets and ceramics in this kind of course, this picture may be a bit difficult to understand, but these holes are the openings to the air. The original oven is in the bottom of these top openings. They smelted metals, and this is one of the crucible used by Sumerians to smelt metals. Now, I don't know how much you know about metallurgy, but Sumerian chemists were smart enough to understand the basic principle of smelting. Yeah, metal eritme. Now, but there is a problem. When you melt some metals, they cannot be very pure after you cool them down, because some chemicals around it can be mixed with the metal. If you want to have pure metals, you have to do something, add something, and also make sure that that if that metal contains some oxides, if you have oxide, let's say if you are smelting iron, definitely there are lots of iron oxide. If you smelt it, iron will not be as strong as a pure iron metal because it's mixed with iron oxide. So you have to get rid of oxide. Now, do you know the basic principle of Demirçelik factories? How they produce iron, metal, or steel from iron oxide. Very simple idea. You have oven at very high temperatures, you put iron oxide, and then you add something very simple, and then you remove all the oxygen. What can you do? Very simple material, the simplest thing. It reacts easily with oxygen. Ne olabilir?
Magnezyum.
O kadar pahalı malzeme koymayın. Something very cheap. Carbon. But it's very expensive to use pure carbon, graphite.
Coil.
Huh?
Coil. Coil. Kömür.
Coal. Okay. The reason I want to talk about this is that because you remember the accident in Barton. Var mı Barton arkadaşınız? Barton'da değil mi? Barton'daydı, yanlış mı? There was a interview with a professor of Istanbul Technical University. I just saw slightly, and I think it was in CNN. The lady says, "What kind of coal is this, or something? Can you take it out, or something?" And the man, I don't know why the professor didn't want to go near to. He said, "It is taş kömürü, coal, just
Charcoal.
original coal, huh?"
Charcoal.
Charcoal, no, odun kömürü, charcoal. Just coal you remove directly from the mine. It has certain chemical materials inside. If you distill it, you can produce many chemicals. But in factories, it's very cheap. They put together iron oxide, they mix them together with coal, they burn them, coal takes out all the oxygen. But in the end, you produce also kok kömürü. So when you burn taş kömürü, it stinks. There are some chemicals in the smoke. But when you burn kok kömürü, it produces much less smoke and no harmful chemicals come out. So steel technology is based on, that's why Barton mine is important, but of course safety is something else. So Sumerians used various techniques to get rid of oxygen and also to reduce the melting point. They used borax. So, and a few other chemicals. They were very successful chemists to discover easily how to obtain pure metals and then to make alloys. Because when you make alloys, you mix together two or more metals, but you have to prevent the formation of oxides.